Greetings all, Ferrariman601 here. Well, the only thing that I can really say to all of you is thank you. Thank you all so much, as sincerely as I can say it, for making this channel, as small as it is, as low-tech, as ad hoc as it is, a success. Now, a success on YouTube these days. Yeah, YouTubers are a dime a dozen. By YouTuber, I mean anybody who has an account and anybody who has ever uploaded any sort of content. They're a dime a dozen. There are tens of millions of YouTube accounts out there, and it's accessible to anybody with a computer, anybody with a phone, anybody with a cheap little $50 camera, and of course nowadays everybody's got a camera on their phone too, so anybody with a camera, a computer, or with a phone can be a YouTuber. However, there are YouTubers and then there are YouTubers, and by the other YouTuber I mean people who actually have other people who care about the kinds of things that they upload. Now, of course, we all know that there are some really big names on this website nowadays. There are some really big channels with millions of subscribers, hundreds of thousands of subscribers. People have millions of views. People who have had their videos featured on television or in movies or on news reports or referenced in academic journals even, sure. There are plenty of really successful people out here on YouTube who have turned it into their livelihoods. There are people who have been able to quit their jobs due to their work on YouTube. I'm not one of those people. I'm not one of those bigger channels. I'm not one of those people who produces a viral hit every week or a viral hit every other day, as some people seemingly are able to do. But I am somebody who is a privateer. I am somebody who is doing this simply because he wants to. I don't have any sponsors. I don't have any contractual obligations to anybody to upload X number of videos per week or per month or whatever. I do what I do simply because I want to do it, simply because I found something in sim racing and in Formula One, in the real world side of things, that I enjoy, something that gets me excited, something that really motivates me to wake up early on a Sunday morning for most Grand Prix weekends and turn on the television, turn on the live timing apps on my devices, and more recently, to turn on my microphone here and talk to all of you on a live stream and give you a play-by-play, blow-by-blow of the Grand Prix in progress. And to me, that is what YouTube really was supposed to be. I remember the old slogan of YouTube back in 2005 used to be, broadcast yourself. They've moved away from that a little bit in more recent years, and YouTube now has big, lucrative contracts with movie companies, with record companies, with even with multimedia companies producing news content, things like that. And all of that is great, and really that is due to the evolution of the internet. The internet's no longer the thing that companies use to do business. It's no longer the thing that maybe when you figured out that you weren't going to have to make a phone call for the next hour, you plugged your computer into to check this new thing called email. The internet has become really a parallel universe of sorts, where an entire world exists parallel to the real world, influenced tremendously by the real world, but at the same time it still enables us to do plenty of really cool things that are simply not possible for most people in their everyday lives. To me, that's what the internet really is, and that's what YouTube really is, at least in the form that I've chosen to use it. What I've been able to do here in sim racing is to have some really cool experiences driving cars at circuits in countries that I will never have the chance to touch with my own hands, to countries that I've never visited and likely never will have the chance to visit, but really to still be able to get some sense of what it must be like to be able to be one of those privileged few people who get the opportunity to do things like this in the real world. That's what excites me, and that's why I want to share all of this with all of you. However, for this 3,000 subscriber special, what I really want to talk about today is not necessarily my YouTube story. If you're interested in that, we can do another video on that. Let me know in the comments. But what I really want to do with all of you here today is to talk about an opportunity that I had a couple of months ago, which was really, really cool. I would say to this point it is probably the coolest thing that I have done in my entire life. Yes, as the video description and the video title suggest, yeah, I actually did get the chance to drive a real race car quite recently. Did it over in Pennsylvania, Pocono Speedway. It was a Formula 2000 car. The track was a little wet, and then it was a little dry later on, and it was an absolutely glorious experience. Let's talk a little bit about that next. Now, the backstory behind how I got myself in the cockpit of a Formula 2000 car is actually pretty simple and very much appreciated. My 25th birthday was in April of this year, and we have had a pretty hard year in the last 12 months. We've suffered some pretty big losses in the family. It has not been a very fun time. I personally have decided to go in a very different direction with my life, doing something now that I never really thought I would be doing, and maybe mulling over some different moves for the future, but it hasn't been a very fun or a very easy time. So my mother decided that for my 25th birthday, I should drive a race car. So she did a little bit of research and she asked me if I would be okay with it, and quite honestly, initially I was pretty hesitant about it, but I ultimately said, sure, why not? I've been doing it for a whole bunch of years, so why not go out there and actually see if I can do it for real. So she did some research and she found a racing school out in Pennsylvania in a little town called Blakesley. Bertel Roos Racing School is the name of the place. Bertel Roos, for anybody who doesn't know, and he is a very obscure character in motor racing history, but Bertel Roos from Sweden, he actually was a Formula One driver briefly in the 70s. After that, though, he decided to launch a second career for himself. He was a bit of a designer and engineer in his own right. He had an idea for a really cool device that would turn a perfectly normal car into something that's entirely undrivable, and he figured that he could turn it into a really cool teaching aid to teach people how to drive, not only on a racetrack, but how to become safer road drivers as well. So Bertel Roos founded his own racing school. They set up shop over in America, in Pennsylvania, conveniently located very close to Pocono Speedway, which is really, really good. And they have been operating out of there ever since. I have to say, I was unbelievably impressed with the Bertel Roos team. Bertel Roos sadly died a few years ago. He's no longer with us, but the organization that he created and the structure with which these people operate that business is absolutely phenomenal. From the moment I walked in, immediately we were hurled into a briefing showing us the car, teaching us about the different systems, teaching us about the racetrack, giving us, pardon the expression, a crash course in how to drive fast, how to make sure that you don't mess up, how to make sure that you're in the right place, where you need to be, when you need to be there, how to brake, how to change gear, how to use the throttle, all of that kind of thing. It was about an hour to an hour and a half of classroom instruction, literally a whole bunch of guys there. I'd say that there were about 20 of us or so there for this particular track day, the Formula 2000 day, and it was just immediately full-on academics, sit down, shut up, listen to the guy with the chalkboard, he's going to teach you something, and that's what it was. In the meantime, they were calling us in 2 or 3 at a time to be fitted for a race suit, so you can see here, you can see the helmet that they gave me, and yeah, it was a really fast-paced, but at the same time a little bit of a surreal experience because, okay, we're sitting in this room, they've got a Formula 2000 car in the room with us, and they're showing us the car, the different systems, all that kind of stuff. And there's a guy with a chalkboard telling us, okay, so when you hit full throttle at the start of the banking, and I'm like, okay, this is for real. This is going to happen. So just sitting there absorbing as much information as I can. I remember them talking about how you have to use the brakes. You have to be very consistent with your brake pressure. You use full brakes in these cars. You don't have to worry so much in terms of aerodynamic balance changes because we're doing 120 miles an hour roughly at 5,000 RPM, which is the red line, in 4th gear. So there are wings on the car. They're small wings, though. They're not generating a whole lot of downforce. You wouldn't really get a whole bunch of downforce at that speed anyway, given the size of the wings on the car. So full brakes, but you have to modulate the pressure very carefully because there's no ABS, and it's a light car, so yes, you can lock the brakes up. And particularly coming off the pedal, you can't just pop off the brakes, you're going to upset the back end. So you've got to be linear with all of your inputs, throttle and brake and steering. Don't sort of hunt your way through the corner. Do everything deliberately. I remember sitting there thinking, okay, well, there you go. That's what you've got to do on a sim. That's what you've got to do in reality. And something clicked in my mind and said, well, hold on. They're not saying anything that's particularly foreign to me. Maybe this is going to be a pretty cool day. So with some trepidation after the briefing, my mother and I, we jumped in her car and we drove about 3-4 miles from the racing school office over to Pocono Raceway. Pocono Raceway was an absolutely tremendous experience. It was the first time that I had ever been to a real world-class racing facility, and I was impressed beyond impressed. Everything from the guys at the front gates telling us where to go, checking our IDs, all the way to the people in the infield telling us where to park, the staff in the paddock, everything was just running like a Swiss watch. I don't think I've ever seen another area, another organization running with that degree of precision, with that degree of organization. Everything was just like clockwork. So unbelievably impressed by the racing school and by the facility itself. And speaking of this facility, Pocono Raceway, if you've never been there, if you've never been to any real world-class racetrack, you've got to go. Even if you're not interested in racing, just as a study of design. Everything has an explicit purpose there in terms of the way cars are funneled through the infield to parking, to how you walk into the paddock and pit lane area. Everything has a purpose. Everything has a time and place. It was an obsessive compulsive person's dream. Everything was just there as it should be, and the entire facility, whether it's the grass in the infield or the asphalt on the track, everything is spotless, faultless, brilliant. So anyway, we get there, we park up, we get out of the car. I have my suit on already. I take my glasses with me, I have my helmet with me, and we walk over behind the pit lane area just to get everybody gathered, and they tell us about what's going to happen. After that, we all walk over to a fleet of Chevy Malibus. Yeah, Chevy Malibus, just normal unmodified road cars. The idea behind this is you take 2 to 3 guys plus an instructor and you go out on the track and you learn the circuit. Now, Pocono Raceway, it is a 2.5-mile tri-oval. It's literally a gigantic triangle drawn out in the middle of Pennsylvania, particularly in the middle of nowhere. The town's called Long Pond, but there is nothing out there. Driving out to the track, literally, it's a 2-lane road, one direction each side, and you're surrounded by trees. So there's nothing, racetrack, and there it is. Just out of nothingness, the trees just go away, and all of a sudden, there's Pocono Raceway. It's just, it is like that. So we walk out to the Malibus, get in with 2 other guys that were with me, plus the instructor, and we drive out onto the track. The instructor is driving first. So we go out and we do a couple of laps at a pretty good speed. Now, we're using the North Circuit here, so it is not the full 2.5-mile triangle. It is turn 3 of the NASCAR/IndyCar track with its 6-degree banking. We use about half of that short chute between turns 2 and 3, and then we turn into the infield. We're also running in the opposite direction as NASCAR and IndyCar. So turn 3 is a right-hand banked turn for us. It's a left-hand banked turn for NASCAR and for IndyCar. Aside from that, we're out there and we do maybe 4 or 5 laps out here in the Malibu with the instructor driving, and we're going at a pretty good clip. Of course, none of us in the car have our seatbelts on, the instructor included, so we're all getting thrown around back here, and we're all having laughs, and it's all pretty good fun. Then we stop right on the entrance of the banking on the high side of the racetrack, and then the instructor says, "All right, guys, who wants to go first?" And the idea is, okay, now you know which way the corners go, so you now get to drive the Malibu with the 2 other guys on board and the instructor in the front passenger seat giving you pointers. So I let the 2 other guys in the car with me go first. I wanted to see, all right, can I really do this? Because now I've got an audience and there's an instructor next to me, and there's a little bit of performance anxiety starting to come on here. So the 2 other guys go, they throw us around in the car, nobody spins, nobody goes off, nobody locks up the brakes, so it was pretty good. The instructor says, all right, last but not least, Bill, your turn. So, all right, I get in the driver's seat. This Malibu is an automatic. I hadn't driven an automatic car in quite a long time, actually. My Tacoma, as many of you know, it's a 5-speed, so I'm not used to an automatic car or whatever. So I was reaching for a clutch pedal. Yeah, it was a mess, but whatever. Get my seat adjusted. I feel fine. Seatbelts on. I tell the other guys, put your seatbelts on just in case. And then I go out, and we had 3 laps each. So I did my first lap just trying to learn which directions the track goes and whatever. I had learned the North Circuit on iRacing, and some of you may remember months and months ago, before I had done this, I did a video at Pocono and the North Circuit in an F2000 car. iRacing is the Skip Barber car, a little different, but I did videos on the North Circuit and iRacing, so I had learned the circuit on iRacing, so it wasn't that unfamiliar. I must say that I was so impressed by iRacing once I had the opportunity to see the real deal, because I knew exactly where the bumps were in the road. It was incredible, the amount of foresight that I had there. The only thing that was different between iRacing and reality was they somewhat recently redid the curbing on the North Circuit. So the curbing on iRacing is a bit different now from what it is in reality. You get actually a little bit more of an apron now, so I appreciated that. But in terms of the camber of the road, where the bumps were, what the braking points needed to be, it was all pretty much one-to-one. So after my first lap, I was pretty confident in terms of which way I needed to have the car pointing, where my eyes needed to be, that kind of thing. So for my second and third laps, I absolutely throttled this little Malibu around the circuit. There were squealing tires. The back end was just sort of starting to give out, and it was great. It was absolutely great. Didn't spin it, didn't go off, didn't lock up the brakes. Awesome. Absolutely awesome. The only part of that was a little underwhelming was he limited us to 60 miles an hour down the straight, simply because the brakes on it are not that good. It is a road car, and it's a Chevy road car after all, so meh. But yeah, it was really cool, and I have to say, it was plenty fun just hurling a road car, a four-door road car, around the circuit, which was cool. I don't have any video of that, but that was fun in its own right. I think I would go out there and drive a road car around this place. But yeah, my 3 laps were done. I parked the car at the top of the banking like everybody else had done. And instructor said, good job. The only thing you need to do, calm your steering down a little bit, particularly around the banking. I was putting in a little bit of extra movement into the steering, just kind of not shaking the car around, but just a little bit of tremor in the steering. He told me to calm that down because that'll be magnified in the race car. So, all right, I took that advice, and then we all walked over back to the pit lane where they had a trailer set up, and we all went into the trailer, and they gave us the briefing on, okay, this is how it's going to work when you're in the race car. These are the flag signals. This is what we're going to do if you spin. This is what we're going to do if we have to call you into the pits, either because you're doing something stupid or if there's a mechanical problem with your car. You see the black flag, you jump into the pit lane. You see the yellow flag, you stop. Yellow flag doesn't mean prepare to stop. Yellow flag for these guys means stop. So all that settled. We came out of the trailer again. They had one of the F2000 cars sitting in the pit lane with all the bodywork removed. One of the instructors jumped into the cockpit. They fired the car up. They just walked us through how the controls worked, what the instruments were. We had oil pressure and we had water temperature, and then on a digital display on the binnacle of the car, there's a little carbon fiber panel with a digital readout. We had a tach and we had some shift lights. And then that's all the instrumentation you've got in the car. It's really low tech. The car itself, though, is really, really cool. These F2000 cars, they are not the typical F2000 cars that you'll see in most racing series today. They are pretty much straight out of the mid-1980s in terms of the technology they have. They were actually designed by Bertil Roos. In addition to his patent on the slide car, it's called that, the idea that you can create a device to unlock the rear end of a road car and basically give it four-wheel steering, but have it slide in unison on all four corners, teach a driver how to recover from slides and things like that. Bertil Roos also designed these F2000 cars, and he did a really good job with them. They're very simple, but they're also very well sorted, and they're very robust. They've got a 2-liter 4-cylinder Ford engine in the back, carbureted, really a blast from the past, actually. Let the record show it was my first time driving a carbureted engine. Beyond that, it's got a 4-speed manual gearbox, unsynchronized. It's a Hewland box, and yeah, just really straightforward. No computers, no technical gizmos, none of that. Just steering wheel, a gear stick, and 3 pedals. So having the car opened up, having them walk us through, okay, these are the specs, this is what it can do, this is what it will do here today. So don't expect to go slow. Don't expect to go insanely fast. This is what we've got. This is what the car is. This is what it's capable of. This is what it's going to be here for. So they were just very direct, very realistic with their expectations of us, but also they said, look, have fun. It's a race car. Many of you may never do this again. Enjoy it all at the same time. So it was a lot to take in all at once, but I didn't miss a beat with it. I was just so hanging on everybody's last word, just walking around the car, just trying to absorb everything. And I don't know, I think I did a pretty good job. The more time that I spent around the car that they had there, looking at it, understanding how it worked, looking at the suspension layout, looking at how the brakes were, where the master cylinder was, throttle linkage. I mean, I took in all of those details and I understood, okay, this is what I've got underneath me. This is what I can reasonably expect it to do. And that really just gave me a whole bunch of comfort, quite honestly. So finally, all the briefings are completed. We've had a chance to walk around one of the cars, kick the tires. Literally, I think I actually did kick the tires because you have to. And come on. So at the end of the pit lane, all of the race cars are now set up. They have already been unloaded off of the trailers. They're all pointing out for a photo shoot that they were doing. I didn't participate in that photo shoot because I really didn't want to have my picture taken. So they did their photo shoot, and then we got into the cars. These cars are they're baby formula cars. They really are. They are obviously open cockpit, open wheel. They are very tight. They are very, very tight. I was surprised, honestly, about how snug they really were once you slide into them. Getting into a car like this, the cockpit has a very high sill around it. The car is very small and very low, but it's a big step to get into the cockpit. So basically, you reach into the cockpit, you pull the seat belts out of the way, and then you step one leg over the side, and then you get your other leg in there, you stand in the car, and then you use your arms to lower yourself into the cockpit. You extend your legs forward as far as you can, and then you just sort of use your arms to lower yourself in. And just getting into the car was a cool experience because I have watched so many years of drivers getting into cars like that, and the way you've got to sort of fold your arms in front of you to get your shoulders in and that sort of thing. That was cool in and of itself. So I get in the car. I'm getting myself situated. I'm not sitting on any of the seat belts. I'm reaching down between my legs trying to find the center buckle where everything goes into. I find that. That's good. I've got the cross straps in place, and as well as I could, trying to loop my arms around the shoulder harnesses. There is virtually no space on your sides in the cockpit because the cockpit is pressing up against your shoulders. So the car itself, that's the structure of the car. It's not with the seatbelts on. The car itself has got you bolted in there. So I managed to get my arms through the shoulder harnesses, fine. I am able to buckle the crotch straps myself and pull them tight, but there's physically no space for me to then reach up with my other arm and pull the shoulder harnesses tight, nor is there space for me to buckle them myself, because I just don't have the range of motion with my elbows with the cockpit the way it is. So they have to finish buckling you in, and they do up the belts for the final adjustments. I tell the guy buckling me in, hey, make it tight. I don't care. I want it to hurt a little bit. So he did it up real tight. I got the pain in the shoulder blades that you get from that harness, and I felt that I'm like, good. It was a little bit painful just sitting there in the pit lane, but that was good. So he hands me the steering wheel. I fit the steering wheel on. It clamps in. I pull it back toward me, make sure it's not going to come off again. That's fine. And then he tells me, switch the ignition on. So I switch the ignition on, and the dashboard comes to life. It goes through its startup sequence. The shift lights scroll across the top, and then they go back to 0, RPM 0. Everything's fine. Got my gauges in front of me, so I'm looking at the water temperature, which is basically ambient temperature because the car hadn't been started yet, and oil pressure obviously showing 0 because the engine's not running. So at this point, just making sure that the buckle on my helmet is tight. I've got my glasses on, got my visor up, and I'm just waiting for the signal to start the engine. And just sitting there in the car, you've got the helmet on, and all the sounds around you are a little muffled, and then your peripheral vision's quite limited with the helmet as well. So just sitting there and getting my bearings. I'm playing with the gear lever a little bit, just trying to learn exactly where the gears are, that sort of thing. Because of course nothing's labeled in here. So, I know the shift pattern obviously first is up and to the left, and then second is back and so on, but, just trying to learn exactly where the gears are. The gear lever itself, the shift linkage was good, but the lever itself, it's not self-centering like it is in a road car. So once you have it in gear, it's okay. But when you're going between gears, there's no force, there's no spring in there that's trying to pull the shifter back into the center for neutral. So you've got to be very deliberate with how you are actually selecting those gears. So I just row up and down through the box as best as I can with the engine off, of course. And then I make sure I'm back in neutral. Car goes in and out of gear even when it's turned off with a considerable clunk. So I wanted to hear that clunk just to make sure I'm in neutral. There it was. And then they signal to start the engine. So ignition's already on. I can hear the fuel pump going. And press the start button. Starter fires. Engine doesn't fire. So I remember, oh crap, it's carbureted. So I start to play with the throttle a little bit. Engine still doesn't fire. Come off of the button. Give the starter a rest for like 10 seconds. Back on the starter, a little bit of throttle, boom, there goes the engine. So engine comes up. Because it's cold and because it's carbureted and the weather, I haven't mentioned the weather at this point, it's not quite raining, but it is misty. So, the humidity's high, it's a little bit cold, so carbureted engine, I had to give it a bit of throttle just to keep it running for a bit. So I decided, all right, let's hold it at like 1400 RPM for like 20-30 seconds, and then let's back off of the throttle. Did that, then the engine came down to a pretty happy idle at about 1000 RPM. It's about where it should be. I was surprised at how loud it was in the cockpit, honestly. I mean, it's only a 2-liter engine, but it's got an open exhaust, no sound deadening. There's absolutely no rubber anywhere in this car apart from the tire, so every vibration just from the engine is immediately transferred into your backside and up through your back and into your neck and into your head. So it's a really cool sort of feeling just sitting there idling. And it was that moment where I realized, all right, this is real. This is about to happen. So they give us the signal. Cars in front of me are going out. Really cool. And then my turn. So clutch in, punch up first gear, clunk. Actually hurt when it went into gear. Big hammer blow basically into right into the small of your back. So ouch. And then I did my best to feel out the clutch before I started the engine, just to feel where the clutch starts to push itself up into your foot, because that's generally about where the bite point is. So I knew where the bite point was, but of course you can't really feel out a clutch without the engine running. So first gear, letting the clutch up, giving it a little bit gas, and then stall. Everybody who drives a manual car stalls. Everybody, I don't care how experienced you are in one particular manual car, every car is a little bit different. So when you're just driving a new car for the first time, you're going to stall it. So I stalled it. I'm not ashamed to admit that I stalled it. I think everybody stalls a manual car, no matter how experienced you are. It happens from time to time. It happened to me just last week driving my own truck. It happens. So whatever. I get the engine refired. The guys are running over to me making sure everything is okay. I just give them the thumbs up, everything is fine. So then they give me a little bit of a push, not really, but I find the bite point and just very, very gingerly ease up on the clutch, let a little bit more throttle into it, get the car rolling, let the clutch out the rest of the way, and then we are off. You can see in this video here in moments that my mother shot. Sorry, it is vertical. My mother shot it. She's not a photographer. She shot it with her phone. But anyway, you can see the video here of me getting started here for my first ever run in a race car. So you could definitely hear there, aside from stalling on the first attempt to get started, very, very gingerly I am making my way out there onto the track. I really don't know how fast the engine's going to pick up revs. I don't really know how fast the revs are going to drop between gears, so that shift between first and second gear was pretty slow and pretty deliberate, but I pretty quickly figured out what I needed to do, and then, well, as you shall see in a moment, everything just really started to come together. The first couple of laps out here are very deliberate and very cautious. I'm trying to figure out what I've got underneath me. It is actually raining a little bit. The circuit is a little bit greasy, so just trying to learn the track conditions as best I can and as quickly as I can do in all of this. But as you shall see here from the onboard video, which is going to be the rest of this, yeah, there's a lot of learning going on. I will jump in with some commentary for this onboard. There is a link, however, in the description to the unedited raw footage. Okay, so here we are with our onboard video. Got the car in first gear. We are leaving the pit lane. Remember, running in the opposite direction as IndyCar and NASCAR use this place. Got the cones there off on the right. That is delineating the pit out from the racetrack. And just going up through the gears here for the first time and then sweeping down low through the banking. You see some smudges there on the camera lens. That is water falling from the sky. Yep, that is rain. So my first time in a race car, my first time driving on a race track, really, in the rain. This is something, just being very cautious here, approaching the braking zone for our turn one. And you'll see the circuit configuration coming down through the box here for the first time. Unsynchronized box, remember, got to just get a feel for it. Through turn one there, you see how they have basically put a chicane in there for turn one. Otherwise, that would be approached pretty much at top speed, so they've got to slow us down. This first lap just being extremely cautious, just trying to figure out what do I have underneath me, what are the track conditions, how do I use the gearbox. You will notice that quite a few of my shifts, particularly the downshifts, they are not at all smooth here. It's my first time driving an unsynchronized box as well, so just trying to feel my way around that. Everything will smooth up though once we do get up to speed. Just coming down here to the end of the lap, the flag stand was over to our left-hand side. That's the only marshalling post here that we had on this run. So just winding it up now as much as I want around the banking for our first flying lap, you might call it, and we already have some traffic in front. The only place I'm allowed to overtake is right here on the banking. They have split the banking into 2 lanes for us, so if you are yielding position, you're going to go to the high side and let the guys on the low side through. As you can see, nobody has done so, so we have to now stick behind these guys for the next lap. So all of this now taking place at a rather reduced pace, but yeah, I'm sitting here, I'm in a race car, I am just taking in the scenes at the moment. I'm trying to feel out what I have underneath me. I'm trying to keep a healthy distance to the guys in front of me as well, because I don't really know how they're going to behave. They're doing the same thing I'm doing right now, just trying to figure out, okay, where am I and what have I got? Also, at this point I've realized, yeah, it is properly raining out here, so how is this going to work? Is it going to stop raining? Is it going to keep raining? Is the rain going to get worse? How bad is it? At this point, I am rather thankful that we are running on basically road tires, so you can see deep grooves in them, because, well, it's raining, and slicks would not do well in conditions like this, I must say. So, coming back out, back onto the main track, the oval circuit, I'm going to see if anybody is going to cede me position here. Trying to find second gear. Still trying to figure out that downshift. As you can see, that downshift was quite severe. However, is anybody going to pull up to the high side of the racetrack this time? Does not appear so this time, so we're going to be stuck behind these guys for another lap. But, as you can see, just as quickly as the rain came, it has stopped, and now there's bright sunshine overhead. So that was a very welcome sight, I must say. I'm breathing a sigh of relief at this point. Coming down into the braking zone. I can't push the brakes yet because I still do have those guys in front of me, but nonetheless, I'm enjoying myself immensely at this point. So here you can see still trying to figure out that downshift from third into second gear, but you can see guy in front has pulled off to the high side in an attempt to let the two of us through, and I am going to get past him right here, just grabbing fourth gear there. And yes, now we have a little bit of clear track. We still have one car in front, and I do not have any more time to overtake him, but I am now somewhat encouraged that guys are jumping out of the way. Here, jumping on the brakes harder than I did on the previous lap. Again, still trying to maintain a healthy distance to the guys in front of me. Here, I have no idea what was really happening, but everybody decided to stop, so I grabbed neutral and just coasted for a little bit, picked up second gear again, and then off we go. I later found out that there was one person here in this group who had never driven a manual car before, and I'm pretty sure that he is the guy pulling this train because he was just so slow, and what he did there into turn one was truly dangerous. You do not stop. You don't stop in the middle of a road, for example. You certainly don't stop in the middle of a racetrack. So you can see here we are moving at a very reduced pace. I'm just using this opportunity to make sure, I feel okay, the car is okay, checking my gauges, that sort of thing, checking my mirrors, making sure that nobody is too close behind me so that I can move anywhere I need to move on the track if need be. But yeah, just trying to figure out, okay, well, if this is going to be what the entire experience is, well, this pretty well sucks. So I hope that this guy jumps out of the way as soon as possible because this is not fun. Much to my relief, at this point, I see Mr. Slowpoke diving into the pits, so I'm like, alright, now maybe we can get released and do some proper laps here. So, both of the guys in front, neither one peels off to the high side to let me through, so alright, another lap now, stuck behind these two, but maybe they'll be just a little bit faster. Maybe we can get some proper speed, I hope, coming up into the braking zone, but no, it's not happening. I'm nowhere near the red line here. I pulled fourth gear, but that's just to pull fourth gear. Really, there was no need to. Just getting the second row of shift lights up, so about 100 miles an hour at this point, maybe 110 or so. Jumping on the brakes again, down through the box, third gear, second gear now, there it is. And now into turn one. That yellow cone there is the apex marker, quite obviously. These two guys really aren't going much faster than the previous guy, so yep, another lap at a reduced pace. But I'm just using this opportunity now to pick up the points. My turn-in point, my apex point, my exit point. Not really using the exit curbing through there. It's pretty far away, and it's not really in the right place either. It's a little bit too far down the road, but the cone we passed there on the right side was the braking point, and then the turn-in point. There's your apex cone on the left, so I will get onto those curbs a little bit later on, but at the moment, we're still running pretty slow behind these two fellas. That downshift again into second gear. At that point, I realized, yep, that's where the revs need to be. That's how I'm going to have to do that downshift. I see one guy has pulled off to the high side, so we will grab fourth gear just a touch early, and then we will pass him by. Give him a little wave, thank you very much. And now, finally, hitting the red line in fourth gear in the Formula 2000 car for the first time. About 120, 125 miles an hour before we jump on the brakes. Jumping on the brakes quite early because I still don't quite have 100% confidence in what I've got underneath me, but through turn one there, that was pretty good. That was the first time that I felt any sort of G-force in this car. I was overall quite surprised in general at how not physical the experience was. This was a very physical experience, don't get me wrong. When I was done for the day and I had the racing suit off, and of course I just had normal street clothes underneath, I had bruises on both of my arms. My left elbow in particular was skinned. I don't really know how that happened, but especially with had the shirt on underneath and then of course the fire suit, but yeah, my left elbow was skinned. If anything, most of the soreness I felt was in my abdomen, my core muscles. It wasn't in my arms, it wasn't in my shoulders, it was from the core muscles. But anyway, finally, we have a clear track in front of us. The guy in front has peeled away, picking up 4th gear, full throttle, full revs on the motor. Yes, our first clear lap. So, having had our first clear flying lap under our belts, I feel really good at this point. Looking down the racetrack, there is a guy, he's a long way in front of us. I know he's there, but full revs on the motor, now braking down through the box, 3rd, 2nd. The guy in front has had a little bit of a moment, so now I deliberately go a little bit wide to give myself a little bit more braking distance possibility. Otherwise, I'm going to run into him. I did not want to do that. Absolutely no semblance of any crash protection in this car, and I did not feel like breaking my legs. So that's a bit of evasive action here. I do have to commend myself. That was very heads up to think to go wide and give myself a little bit more time to slow the car down. But yeah, I think it's the guy who didn't know how to drive a manual back to his old tricks again, because you can see he's not going that fast, and the way that he completely messed up turn 1 certainly doesn't give me a lot of confidence in his abilities. So stuck behind him again. I just came off of a fast lap, now we're on a slow one. It's breaking up my rhythm. I really wanted to see if I can start to methodically bring my lap times down. Not that I was really, considering lap time here, but yeah. They wave the blue flag at him from the flag stand there off to the left, so he should be pulling away to give us a clear track. Does he do so? Yes, he does. Goodbye. Alright, so that was a good lap. I was very pleased with that one. We've got some slower traffic up ahead now, so we're now off the pace, but that gave me all the confidence that I needed to gain. I now knew exactly what I had underneath me. I even caught a little bit of oversteer out of turn 2. I was trying my sim-perfected throttle blipping technique there. It works in a sim, and maybe it works in some real-world cars too, but it doesn't work in this one. I caught that oversteer, it unsettled the back end. Thankfully, I was able to catch it, though, with a little bit of opposite lock, so that was fun. Now I've got all the confidence. Now I just want to go play. I'm not nervous about this anymore. Now I'm just having fun. Guy in front peels into the pit lane, and now I take to the high side because I saw the blue flag at the flag stand there. I'm not entirely sure if that was actually a blue flag or if it was a black flag for the guy in front of me, but I saw it as a blue flag, so I allowed the guy behind me to overtake, which I wasn't particularly pleased about because I knew that I could be faster than pretty much anybody I had seen by this point. So now we've got another lap stuck behind somebody else, but it's par for the course when you do something like this. When you don't have the track to yourself, when you're only allowed to overtake in one place on the track, you're going to get stuck behind people, and it's just the way it works. And so far, I'm very quickly realizing that I am likely the fastest guy here today. So, well, if you're fast, you are going to be stuck behind slower people. It's just inevitable. It's the laws of physics. So, just biding my time now. Just feeling the car out. I'm just playing with different steering angle as I'm going through these corners, trying slightly different variations on the apex markers and things like that, but for the most part, just doing my thing. See, the flag waved there, and then I immediately peel off into the pits. It was a black flag, and I found out that it was for the guy in front of me. However, I saw the black flag, and I just immediately pulled into the pits because, well, black flag is no bueno. So, yes. Guy in front waving me back, I confirm with him, yes, give him a thumbs up, back out onto the racetrack for me, no black flag, I was not looking forward to being yelled at anyway, thumbs up off to the right, my mother was standing behind the pit wall, and now back out onto the racetrack. As we rejoin the racetrack, you will notice that I'm obviously up on the high side, there are people coming to overtake, so I will punch up fourth gear a little bit early and just let them through. They didn't seem to be keen on getting the message though, so I eventually, after watching the mirrors, I decide to wave them on, as you can see. Yeah, go past, I'm running out of road to let you through. So, after backing out of the throttle an awful lot, this guy finally takes the position that I'm giving to him, and yep, we continue on our way. He is, of course, a lot slower than I am, so yeah, I'm going to be overtaking him anyway in due course. The blue flag goes up for the guy in front, so yes, he'll be ceding me this position, but looking down the racetrack, there's already another car not too much further ahead, so yep, thank you very much for that, I appreciate it, yep, little wave, little thumbs up, thank you, however, still don't have quite a clear track in front. We will be disposing of this next guy on the next lap, however, so one more lap stuck behind somebody else. He's got some pretty healthy straight line speed, we're just barely not touching the rev line, but now back down into second gear and into turn 1. He is hesitating quite a bit through turn 1. You've seen me go through turn 1 a couple of times at speed. It can be taken a lot more quickly than that. I have demonstrated. I'm not saying that I was the fastest guy through turn 1, but I was certainly faster than this one in front of us. I was playing there with getting the wheel in the rut between the curbing and the white line on the racetrack. You're able to do it. Didn't unsettle the car, so maybe we'll try that when we've got some more speed. Also, just trying to play with the curbing a little bit there, doing the same thing on the left-hand side. You can use the rut, you can even use the curbing there. The curbing is very shallowly profiled. It's very gradular in how it forms that sleeping policeman speed bump shape. So that's all quite tenable if you want to put your wheel on that. In front, blue flag being waved for the guy immediately in front of us, so we should have a clear track now on this next lap to come. So that was great fun. I had 2 clear laps in succession. They were my fastest laps of the session, and it was just awesome. Absolutely fantastic. The car did everything I wanted it to do. It did nothing that I didn't want it to do. It was absolutely stuck to the ground. Little twitches toward the back end of the circuit, but for the most part, all very well controllable. There were no surprises. I got my shifts done pretty well, and the brakes felt great. Everything was just fantastic. I really liked the sensation of speed going around the banking there. It's only 6 degrees of banking, but let me tell you, when you're sitting that close to the ground in a car that light, you really feel the banking. 6 degrees feels like it may as well be 45 degrees. It was really, really cool. I've got 3 cars in front of me now, and they have really dropped off the pace significantly. So at this point, it's just hoping that blue flags get thrown. I'm not seeing any blue flags. Will anybody just yield the position out of the kindness of their heart? Perhaps the guy in front of the pack does. The first guy, maybe the second guy has a chance to get past him, but I certainly do not, so I'm going to let the chips fall where they may, see what the guys in front of me do. Looks like 1 car made it through that time. So, yeah, I've got another couple of laps at least stuck behind slower cars, but, you know, at this point, I am feeling really good. I know that I can drive a race car. I know that I can do this well, and I know that I could probably do this consistently. So I'm just enjoying it. At this point, I know that I've been out for about 20 minutes, and I'm really just hoping that this day doesn't end. I did see a cone there off on the left-hand side. We just passed it, and, well, somebody got into the cones there. I don't know who that was. Now, look over. I'm checking my wrist there. You can see I moved my arm up in front of me. What I was doing there was I was wearing my heart rate tracker. I have a pedometer. It's one of those smartwatch slash pedometer things. I don't want to mention any names here, but I was checking my heart rate. I had the presence of mind in the middle of all of this experience to look at what my heart rate was. I am an avid runner. My cardio is in pretty good shape, so I just wanted to see, relatively speaking, what was my heart rate. It was 143. There, the checkered flag is up. The session is over. Thumbs up to the flag man coming back now down into the pit lane for the end of our run. It was a really cool day, really cool experience. Bertel Roos did everything wonderfully. Pocono Raceway did everything wonderfully. You could just probably, if you look over to the left now, I've got my visor up, punched up first gear here, just pulling the car up toward the wall, back into neutral, getting myself straightened up. Full lock on the steering there. There's my mother taking my picture with her phone there. And now just waiting to pull forward now one last time to get the car parked up for the second group of guys going out. First gear now. Now not stalling the car. I've got the clutch figured out. And yep, as you can see, that is the end here of the onboard portion of the video. Really cool experience. So yeah, all in all, it was a really, really cool day. It was a really, really cool experience overall. Like I said, it's probably the coolest thing that I have done in my life thus far. You can see here, this is the little certificate that they give you when you're done with the day. I have debated putting it on my resume. I have yet to do that. I don't think I actually will, but I could, theoretically speaking, because, yep, there it is. There's the certificate. I have successfully completed a half-day course driving at competitive speeds. So, yep, there's the proof, and, yeah, I did it. And it's a cool thing to be able to think about, be able to tell people about, and certainly I figured it was definitely really good material for a 3,000 subscriber special video. So hopefully you have all enjoyed that. I will leave you with a look at yours truly, all kitted out in the racing gear, ready to go for my run into, not Oblivion, which was good, but my run into making some really, really cool memories, and now into making some really cool material for this wonderful YouTube channel. 3,000 subscribers, it's a big milestone, especially for a little guy like me. It is just me. It is a one-man show, a one-computer show, doing this simply because, well, I want to. So, to all of you who have supported me over the years, to all of you who continue to subscribe and to like and to comment and to share and all of that stuff, to those of you who are my really loyal core fan group, you know who you are. Thank you all very, very much for your engagement, for your support, for your continued support, for all of the wonderful comments that you leave. I get a lot of great laughs from them. Also, your feedback is incredibly valuable to me, and I really do appreciate it, and all of your suggestions do get incorporated slowly but surely into what you see before you. However, that's all I've got for you today. Thank you all very, very much for contributing in your own parts to making this channel a success. You really do give me a lot of energy and a lot of motivation to continue doing what I'm doing here. Real life still happens. The day job is busy. Maybe thinking about making some changes to the day job. Maybe thinking about making some changes to what things are going to look like in the future. But one thing that's not going to really look any different is what you see right here on YouTube. I want to continue doing this. I want to continue being here. I want to continue making all of this wonderful, very niche content for all of you, because all of you seem to enjoy it very, very much. All 3,000 of you. So until next time, FerrariMan601 saying thank you, truly, very, very much. Thank you to each and every one of you for making this a fun place to be and for making this a success. Until next time, we will See you soon.